And we have to address that because our time is now. And the way to do that is to organise a movement that addresses the key opinion leaders. That's the way this particular set of objectives has occurred. We have an executive government, we have a Commonwealth opposition. Their attitude to the Productivity Commission, their decisions within 5 months, but in 5 months' time, that will be critical. That will decide our fate. That will decide our future. What's the best way to influence them? Sure, we can be pals. We can go and have a cup of coffee with Julia Gillard or Bill Shorten or Tony Abbott or anybody or Mitch Fifield. That's all very nice and that's good and we should do that. But we need to demonstrate that there is strong support in the community for this, strong support at the grassroots level. And they need to know that. They need to feel that. They need to sense it because that's basically what their job is. I know I used to be one of them. I gave it up for Lent and never took it back up again, but I used to be a politician. And that's the political craft. It's like news sense. Journalists talk about news sense. It's the ability to judge what's a story and what's not. Politicians, if they're good politicians, know what's an issue and what's not. And they don't necessarily need to go through the rationale and the logic and do a strategic analysis. They know. We need to get to the point where they know that the NDIS and disability is a big issue. And we can only do that if we demonstrate grassroots support. Look, 17,000 people have signed up to our campaign. 17,000 people on the website have said that they support the NDIS, they believe every Australian counts. I want everybody in the room right now to turn to the person next to them and ask them, have you joined the campaign? Have you joined the campaign? Now listen to that. Listen to that. That's your voice. That's your voice. See how quickly that happened? That's your voice. Everybody could hear that. 1,000 people speaking at one sentence, have you joined the campaign? Now, of course, hopefully everybody has joined the campaign, though we are still signing people up there, so it means that there's 1,000 people committed enough to come here that haven't yet joined the campaign. So it's important that you remember you do that. But also, something else I challenge you to do, listen to your voices. Listen to being asked. That's what our campaign has been about. Our campaign is delivering the message about the experience of people and about what needs to happen by giving people with disability, living with disability, their voice. Our voice has too often been ignored or not heard. So let them hear your voice and let 50 people you know hear your voice. Get them to join the campaign. The key campaign action I want you to take away from here is you don't have 50 people. If you don't have 50 personal friends, and I bet you most of you do, you've got 50 relatives. And if you don't have 50 relatives, you've got 50 people you work with, or 50 people on your contact list, or in your address book. Somewhere there's 50 people you can ask. And if you ask 50 people to make 3 clicks on their computer and type in their name and postcode, I bet you'll get at least 20 of them. And if they're good friends, you'll get 49 of them. So I think that's one thing you can all commit to do. So email your friends, follow the campaign on Twitter, and make sure you follow the website, because you think of all the other key campaign events. So whether it's a forum, whether it's a rally, whether it's something Bruce or Rhonda have done, or something that Ken Baker's done, something that something's been done by Leslie Hall, by any of us relevant to the NDIS, somehow or another it's going to find its way tracked back onto that website. So use the website. Use it as a way of finding out about the other events. So I'm not just about websites. It's simply the most convenient way of structuring the activities we need to put in place. Another thing we're going to be doing, and another thing we are doing already, is visiting MPs. As I said, it's nice to have a cup of coffee with them, nice to have a cup of tea with them, but have a cup of tea and make your voice heard. I ask you just one thing. If you're going to do that, if you're going to ask other people in your organisations or to do that, then I ask you to just give your state coordinator a call and talk to them about the best way to approach that, because we think there are approaches we want to take with MPs. I won't elongate my address by detailing them, but if you talk to your state coordinator, they'll be able to run through with you the best way to approach it, because we don't want to be just a protester, we don't want to be just complainers, we want to recruit MPs as champions. Again, think of the key objective, think of the state of the parliament, think of where the executive is, think of the fact that there's one vote in the parliament changes everything. All we need to do is recruit enough backbenchers from both major parties and for that matter the independents and the Greens and whoever else you want, that could make a key difference. So we need to take an approach to that, and we need to recruit them as champions. We do have a structure. We now have coordinators in every state. We don't have coordinators in every state. We've got coordinators in most states, and we've got coordinators who will be covering every state in the next couple of weeks. And what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to make sure we do those things well. So we do have a focus. We're trying to make sure that we do we do recruit people. We do recruit more people. The benchmark for recruitment to our campaign, 17,000 people since Australia Day. 17,000 people since Australia Day is pretty good. In fact, it's very good. But the bad news is, or the hard news is, that the most successful social campaign in recent times with a political objective was the Your Rights at Work campaign. And in 2 years, they got 250,000 people on their campaign. So we've got a big objective for ourselves because we've got 5 months to make sure every Australian counts. I'll say one last area of activity of campaigns, because everybody's always keen on this. It's been the thing that campaigns are made of, I suppose, and that's advertising. And we'd like to be able to carry the voice of people living with disability to the lounge room of every place right across the country. So Julia Gillard and Tony Abbott can hear it very directly, not only in their electorate offices, not only from their backbenches, not only from their emails or whatever other way we can communicate to them, but when they turn on the radio and when they turn on the television. But more importantly, that not only are they hearing it, but also everybody across Australia is hearing a key message. I might just say though, I don't want to miss you on this. I've been castigated a few times for missing opportunities like this. During the coffee break, there was distributed on your chairs a sheet about donations. I'd ask you to read it and see what you can do, because all that costs money, and we can only do that if we can reliably and sensibly spend the money. And we wouldn't necessarily be talking about a big blockbuster, day and night campaign. We're talking about a sensible way of convincing Julia Gillard and Tony Abbott, and of making sure that people with a disability had their voice heard right across Australia. I think, to illustrate my point, I can probably conclude by saying, to make every Australian count, we need to hear voices like Mary, Robert, James, Billy and Claire, people, if you've been on the website, you'll be familiar with.